Hello everyone. Today we celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany. You know, that's the 12th day of Christmas when our true love says to us that it's time to pack up all those Christmas decorations and put them aside for another year. But the Feast of the Epiphany, alongside Easter and Pentecost, was one of the three great festivals of the early church. And in the Eastern church, the Feast of the Epiphany was associated not only with the birth of Jesus, but also with his baptism. And in fact, even today, on the Feast of the Epiphany in the Eastern Orthodox churches, the water that will be used for the baptisms in the coming year is set aside for that special purpose. So Christmas Day didn't really become a thing in its own right until the last quarter of the 4th century. And by the 5th century, in the Western Church, which is the church in which we have our roots, the Feast of the Epiphany had become associated with the coming of the three wise men from the East, the Magi. So, the Feast of the Epiphany has had a very varied background. Why would it be that this most significant of festivals should become associated with the coming of the three wise men from the East? Well, in asking the question, we touch on one of the most significant features of the life and mission of Jesus. It's so simple that we often lose sight of it and take it for granted. Jesus was not the Messiah expected by the Jews. He was not a king like David, who would make the nation great again. He was of lowly birth and background, but most significantly, he was not the Messiah of the Jew alone. He was the Messiah of both Jew and Gentile, the circumcised and the uncircumcised. Symbolically, these three wise men from the East were the first non-Jewish contact with the one who was and is Messiah for all. The Feast of the Epiphany is a celebration of the inclusive love of God, a love that is for all, without discrimination or prejudice. The Gospel stories impress us with a picture of Jesus who aligned himself time and time again with the outcast, the marginalised, the despised, the downtrodden, the ridicule, the prostitute, the tax collector. Just think of the parable of the Good Samaritan. It was not the good, pious Jew who stopped to show compassion and caring, but the non-Jew, the Samaritan. The point of this priority in Jesus' ministry and teaching was not to suggest that those who are good, committed church folk like you and me, not to suggest that we are excluded, but to acknowledge that God's love begins at the point of greatest vulnerability and fragility. That's where the ministry of the mission and the mission of the church must also be found. Judaism in the time of Jesus had become elitist. It was very much the religion of the elite, the Sadducee, the Pharisee, and the scribe. It had become the religion of the law, the religion of control of the masses by the few. It had become strangled by its own inflexibility. The visit of the three wise men from the East reminds us that the message of Jesus does not tolerate the kind of introverted religion that fights for the survival of its structures at the expense of people. The kind of religion which says that if you are not baptized or circumcised, confirmed or born again, if you haven't followed this law or that one, if you haven't had the right kind of breeding, or if your skin is the wrong colour, then you're outside of the love of God. That kind of religion is anathema to the gospel of Christ. The story of the three wise men from the East, bearing gifts to the side of an infant born in a stable, reminds us that the kingdom of God, which he proclaimed, is not the private property of a few, but that the fruits and the benefits of that kingdom belong to the whole church, to all people. Such inclusive love is the love with which God addresses us. And it's against this measure that we're called to live out our Christian discipleship. So that's the message that the three wise men from the East returned to their homes with. That God is with them. That God is with all people. God is with us. May this Feast of Epiphany be a time of great blessing as you give witness to this inclusive, transformative love of God. God bless you.